Hey, this is Those Conspiracy Guys. I'm Gordon, and we're here at the Open Minds Conference 2017 in Waterford. And with us we have Mark Devlin, who's the author of Musical Truth. Do you want to hold it up, Mark? Musical Truth that you can get. We might be able to see if we can get some Amazon vouchers or something for people to try and get that. And you have a podcast as well, Mark?
Yes, I do. I've got a podcast called Good Vibrations, which is conversation-based.
Sure.
And I also have one called The Sound of Freedom, which is conscious music-based.
Cool.
So it's the antithesis to all this nasty, toxic, commercial garbage that I talk about in the book.
Yeah.
This is real music for
cool.
real people.
And you have a YouTube channel as well that people can go and get your message.
Yep, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/MarkDevlinTV. So I've got a whole bunch of videos from previous conference talks that I've done up there. There's a few bits of radio interviews that I've done, a few other little snippets. There's even some DJing stuff. There's some non-truth stuff,
So,
incredibly.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yesterday we saw you talk, and there's a lot of stuff about like the music industry. We've done an episode on like the Illuminati. We've done an episode on the occult, and we talk about these symbols that are replete within the music industry. We did one on MK Ultra and talked about Project Monarch and mind control among pop culture and stuff like that. You started talking yesterday about celebrities and how you got into the music industry. So you started off as a DJ, right?
Yeah, I still am a DJ, although I play far fewer gigs now than I used to. Do you think it's something I said? Do you think I've upset someone? So it was my main living for many years. So I was a club and radio DJ. I did radio shows on many different stations, and I DJ'd all up and down the UK and in different countries. And things reached the point in 2010 where I'd started to have some big questions about the true nature of the business that I was a part of and what was really going on in the world.
Yeah.
And that caused me to take a bit of a step back from what I'd been doing up to that point, and that's when I became a researcher into these subject areas, and that's when I started researching the information that went into this book.
Did you feel like you'd gone beyond the veil and you'd seen maybe something that the normal Joe didn't see and thought this is a bit unsavory, or was it just like a conscience thing, like you were like, oh, I can't really do this stuff for money without any kind of guilt about how vacuous the industry is?
It was more of the latter, I would say. There was no moment of epiphany for me. I didn't walk in on some mad eyes wide shut style party.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Where I saw a load of executives getting it on with goat heads on and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything like that. And I'm quite happy that I didn't. It was more a case of me just looking at information that was made available to me, coming to understand the true nature of these industries and what they're a part of in wider human society, and deciding that in all good conscience I didn't want to be a part of that anymore, at least not at the level that I was at that point.
And you see a lot of people in the industry kind of making those decisions, right?
There's a few. There's not as many as there should be.
Well, what I mean is like they get to a certain level without becoming famous or without becoming, you know,
yeah,
and then they go, oh Jesus, yeah, no, this is not for me.
Yeah, I consider myself to have had a lucky escape because I was never mega successful. I was never a household name DJ. That's why most people have never heard of me, and I'm happy for it to be that way. Because if I had made it onto one of the big stations like Radio 1 or Capital Radio, as I mentioned in my talk yesterday, it would be so much more difficult for me to be talking about this stuff now, because I would be an owned commodity, because that's what happens when you step up to these big corporations and you become one of their assets. It becomes very difficult for you then to speak out because your ass is owned.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate that I didn't get to that level, although a few years ago it was a source of massive frustration to me that I'd not risen up through those ranks, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't being more successful. Well, now it feels like my greatest gift, and it feels like it was part of my life plan to not reach those lofty heights so that I can now be doing what I'm doing.
Well, this is it. Everyone has their path, you know, as we're learning at the Open Minds Conference.
Absolutely.
It is kind of an enlightening experience to hear these people talking about it. They're so deep in the industry and that they've come across these situations where they're making conscious decisions to take a different path. And it's not that you know, vacuous greed that people are going for. So you talked yesterday about some celebrities and the, I would say, occultish nature of celebrity. Can you expand on that? You talked about couplings, different celebrities getting together or almost being chosen to be put together. You talked about like Project Monarch and mind control and the messages that are being disseminated amongst the populace through these celebrities.
Sure. Well, I'll just start by giving a couple of examples of celebrities who appear to be telling you that they've discovered the true nature of what goes on in the industry and they don't want to be a part of it anymore. So last year we had an interview with Lady Gaga where, she's one of the main industry puppets, one of the main assets of these dark occultists that are running these industries, because that's what it comes down to. It's networks of dark occultists that are using the entertainment industry for mind control and social engineering, and they have their favourite chosen ones, and Lady Gaga would be one of those. So last year she came out in an interview stating that she was fed up with being a puppet, she wasn't going to be a stooge of the industry anymore, she was going to break free, and she was going to become her own maverick, free, creative spirit. And what do we see this year? She's performing at the bloody US Super Bowl halftime show, and her stage is absolutely replete with occult, esoteric, Illuminati symbolism, Freemasonic symbolism. So that didn't go too well, did it? Then you've got Katie...
As well, though, just to catch on that as well, like for the whole Pizzagate, data dump
fiasco
that was given before Christmas. There was pictures in that Pizzagate thing that allied Lady Gaga with like Marina Abramovich and the whole spirit cooking thing. And this is like at the same time as she's coming out and saying that I'm coming. Maybe it was like a false positive to try and throw people off the scent.
Well, I think it was. And Debbie Harry from Blondie was present at those parties as well. There's pictures of her.
A lot of people
cutting that bloody cake.
The person cake.
Yeah,
it's very strange pictures. And then in the Super Bowl, she was also kind of admonished by the public for not taking her opportunity to denounce Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And then some people went back and kind of retconned her message and went, she actually did do that by saying it. Like, it seems like she is one of the most like occultish type figures.
Well, she is. She's one of the main assets, and she's very much the modern day Madonna. So Madonna has been referred to as the grand priestess of the industry, and she's been playing her part for many decades now. But then another example would be Katy Perry, who's just come out with a record called Chained to the Rhythm. And if you listen to the lyrics, she appears to be giving the impression that she's woken up and she doesn't want to be a slave to the industry anymore. So she's talking about how music and culture is used to turn people into brain-dead zombies. And I think one of the lyrics is walking around like a brain-dead zombie in a trance, or words to that effect. So, a truth seeker looking at those lyrics might be inclined to think, my God, Katy Perry's figured out what's going on and she's expressing herself. But you come to realise that these artists are not in a position to genuinely come out and make statements like that.
Sure, yeah. They're commodified already, yeah.
Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, best examples you have of individuals that are absolutely owned by their industry.
It's a false positive to further a narrative that they're... So it's very fashionable to be woke as fuck. That's what's happening right now. They're,
when you get a message like that, you can be sure that it's being put out there for a reason. It's not genuine. It's not coming from the heart of those artists. There's another ulterior motive behind it at the hands of those that control these industries.
So now people who are self-confessed are burgeoning conspiracy theorists are now being turned off that because it's coming mainstream to be a conspiracy theorist or to be like woke. Do you think that's maybe the overarching thing is like, no, don't be getting into this stuff. They talked about like Beyonce's Lemonade and the crazy occultish symbolism in Lemonade where she's like setting fires to things and she's like Phoenix from the flames and there is like the obvious imagery of her breaking up with Jay-Z and saying like, Becky with the good hair. But underneath it all, there was an analysis of her her previous music videos and stuff that she had done before that puts her at the top level of that music scene. Like, what do you think of Beyonce and Jay-Z as the occultish symbols or the Illuminati king and queen?
Well, I think they're the chosen couple. They're the favourites right now. It is a theory of mine, based on a lot of clues and indicators, that the controllers of these industries take certain individuals and pair them off in arranged relationships. So it's my view, it's very difficult to prove these things. Who can really say how Beyonce and Jay-Z met? And I know there's a theory that if you move in certain circles, if you're in the entertainment business, you're not going to go out with a toilet cleaner. I think you made that.
Yeah, we said that yesterday.
You're
but it would be logical, like, to think, if you're going to be going on tour for 7 months, you'd be gone till November, and no one, normal people aren't going to be able to maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
It's certainly a point of view,
yeah.
but we go back to the fact that none of us really know how these celebrities meet.
Sure.
And it's my personal view, just my personal view, that they put people like Beyonce and Jay-Z together, Kim Kardashian, Kanye West together,
power couples,
Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, because it suits them to have two of their controlled celebrities as one entity, so they can influence culture in that way. Because people love celebrity, as I'm sure you've noticed, and they hang on their every word. And often these celebrities are given extracurricular activities. So you have Angelina Jolie having a bloody mastectomy. Ostensibly because she's discovered she's got this gene as part of her DNA that could lead to her developing breast cancer one day. So the safest thing to do is to cut them off, and then it won't happen.
Some people see that as a pragmatic move, and some people thought this was maybe overreactive.
It's like a guy getting his balls cut off so he doesn't get testicular cancer.
Yeah,
but it just seems a bit harsh to me.
It is like a serious decision, and maybe some people could argue that it was maybe a purposeful desexualization of her image. That she was fed up with being sexualized in the Hollywood eye, and she was like, I'm not a sex object. And, you know, she had a psychological issue, or it could just be a pragmatic decision to make sure she doesn't get breast cancer.
Or it could be just another exercise in social engineering dictated by those that tell her what to do.
Yeah, in a transgender age, it could be something to do with that.
Helping to push the transgender agenda,
quite possibly.
Helping to push cancer industry propaganda, because all these things are tied in. It's all to do with changing culture, affecting people's values, affecting people's belief systems. That's why they use lifetime actors, which is what I was talking about at the conference. That's why they do culture creation. They create fads and trends and movements and things that everyone's into at any particular point, because it suits them to have people's attitudes changed in that way. That's why they do facilitated careers, which is the other aspect of what I was talking about.
Yeah, you talked about lifetime actors, and you talked about huge cultural influences. And one of the ones that we did an episode on before was Paul McCartney.
Okay.
And you have a huge...
Which one?
Yes, Paul. You have a huge amount of information in your book. I think you said 15,000 words.
It's the biggest chapter in there. Yeah.
It's it's not a 5-hour episode. But it's a serious amount of information. Tell us, like, what was your opinion about Paul and Fall and the situation around that manufactured situation, where there was a Paul McCartney that was, we came to the conclusion that it's probably not. As we got off the fence,
I know that was your confusion.
It'd be way easier to think that, but to put like a Willie Campbell or a Billy Shears in place of Paul McCartney, huge operation. But you have some interesting ideas about that.
Well, when I first came across the theory that Paul McCartney could have been replaced, my reaction was the same as anyone else's. I thought it's ridiculous, it can't possibly be true. There's no way they could have pulled this off. But when I actually started looking at the evidence for a switch, and I looked at all the forensic information that was being presented, I looked at all the clues and symbolism, and you have to put it into context. When you understand that the dark occult controllers of these industries love their symbolism, they love their numerology, they love giving us the opportunity to understand a situation by placing the truth in plain sight. So
almost psychopathically, yeah.
They put their little clues everywhere
for
you to pick up on if you have the eyes to see. And when you understand that they're not averse to the odd ritual sacrifice or two, when it suits them, which again is a lot for people to comprehend. But when you start to look into the research and you actually start to study these areas with an open mind, you come to understand that anything is possible.
Absolutely.
I think most people that reject the McCartney theory out of hand either have a lot of nostalgic value invested in memories of the Beatles. Maybe they grew up with the Beatles music, maybe they love Paul McCartney as an entertainer, and it's preposterous to them to think that this might not be the guy that is being presented to us.
They were raging they spent $200 to see him live someplace, and it was like, that wasn't a real Paul.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a puncher in the back of the car that I have to drive to make a living a couple of months back, American guy, and he said, oh, next month I'm going to see Paul McCartney.
And you're like, no, you're not.
No, you're not. And you think you are, but you're not.
Yesterday you threw up, I think, about 40 pictures of real Paul, fake Paul, like Billy Shears, Willie Campbell. Like a lot of them, he's a madly different, like, photographable face. And some of the features were, I mean, some you could explain away by just being sleepy Paul. Here's like Paul on coke. Here's Paul like stoned, and his eyes are up like this. Like, there's a lot of examination about the the bone structure and about how the hair lip and the mustache growth and all that stuff. Like you go into that in the book, right?
Yeah, I look at some of the forensics, and that composite of pictures which I showed in the conference yesterday, which was put together by a friend of mine, Mike Williams, Sage of Quay. You can take any one of those pictures of McCartney in isolation and present it to somebody and say, who's this? And they say, well, it's Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
And then you could show another one to somebody else and they say, well, it's Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
But when you put 8 of them side by side, and you realise that in all these different pictures, the jawline looks different, the space between the eyes, the eye colour, for fuck's sake, changes from green to brown to blue, depending on which way the sun's shining, And there's so many anomalies that you've got to explain away if you're going to maintain that this is the same person. And people have said to me, well, with JPEG pictures, now that everything's digital, sometimes you can shrink a picture and it makes someone's face look longer.
Yeah.
But, there have been forensic studies done on pictures of McCartney.
And even DNA forensics.
That's before you get to the DNA issue. And there have been a couple of cases where people have stepped forward to claim that they're children of the biological Paul. There's this German girl, Bettina Hubers, who claims that the original Paul McCartney was her father, and I certainly believe that that is the case from the days when the Beatles were performing in Hamburg. And he
was a lodger
invited
in the house,
Paul to put forward a DNA sample in 1982, I think it was, and they found that the DNA sample didn't match the one that they had on record as being that of McCartney. Why? Well, could it be because he was switched? And then you got this guy, Stephen Johnson, who came forward last year claiming he was the son of the original Paul. And I personally don't go for that one. That one doesn't stack up for me.
Yeah.
I think this guy's an opportunist. But it all goes to show just how deep this McCartney rabbit hole is. And it's so full of conflicting information and stuff that will really blow your mind.
One of the most interesting ones I thought was the guy that lives in Paul McCartney's old house, who looks
John Halliday,
who looks identical to what an old Paul McCartney would look like.
So people are claiming that that's biological Paul, who didn't die, but he just went out of the limelight, stayed out of the spotlight for a few years, then came back as the caretaker
of his own life,
childhood
his own
home.
history. Yeah, that's
and he's
crazy.
Now an alcoholic, and he's wasted and stuff. I don't go for that one either. I mean, there's some similarity there, but there's not enough for me to think that that's the original Paul. I think the original Paul is dead. The conventional conspiracy theory is that he died in a car crash in 1966, 11th of September 1966, incidentally. But I think there could even be more to that conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
and I think it doesn't have to be the case
bumped off.
that he died in some terrible accident. It could well be that he was got rid of in some kind of ritual practice.
It wouldn't be the first time. Paul Walker, let's say. And you have a new book coming out soon. You're writing at the moment.
Musical Truth 2, because there wasn't enough room in Musical Truth 1 to get all the stories in there.
Right.
Or if I'd put them all in there, it would come out in about 2027, something like that. So I had to say, this is it for Volume 1.
Sure.
There you go. Now I'm going to write Volume 2 and put everything else in it.
Can you give us just a quick synopsis then? What's going to be coming up in Musical Truth 2? Musical Truth
2, a big part of it is going to be looking at the acid house scene that came out of the UK in 1987. So we're on 30 years this year, 30th anniversary, good point to look back at it.
Absolutely.
And how that paved the way for the electronic dance music scene that's now all over the world and is affecting young people literally everywhere. And it's my view that if you have any kind of movement that has that amount of sway and influence over large numbers of people, it's been made to happen. It's been steered in that direction. It would not have been allowed to have just evolved by random chance.
So you think electronic dance music has been specifically engineered to aid in some kind of mind control of a younger population, or is it?
Basically, There's elements of mind control there. There's elements again of social engineering, of sowing different cultural values in large numbers of people. Young people are the easiest to manipulate. They're not as cynical and world weary as people of my age. I've been around a bit, I've seen a few things. But young people are more naive, more trusting, more liable to go along with an official story, I feel. So they always do a number on the younger generation. And I think dance music has been used for that. And I'm going to be looking at that in a big way in the next book.
Would it be like the lyrical content, or are they using neurochemical techniques and neurobiological techniques like binaural beats to hypnotize people, or like in what specific way do you think they're
I think it's multifaceted. There's stuff going into sound frequencies, into the actual recordings themselves on an unseen level.
Right.
I'm also going to be looking in a big way at how sound affects us on an energetic level. And I think there's stuff going into these recordings now which is having an effect on people without them realising it. It's having an effect on their consciousness, on their DNA even. There's a whole load of symbolism that's going into these big dance festivals. You see in all the usual suspects, all seeing eyes, pyramids.
The paganistic symbols,
all kinds of stuff, yeah. And there's also just elements of this music being used to steer young people down certain desired paths.
Cool. Well, keep an eye out for Musical Truth and Musical Truth 2. Thanks to Mark Devlin, and this is Those Conspiracy Guys at the Open Minds Conference 2017. Subscribe below, and we'll leave all of Mark's details in the box below. Thanks.